He walked in on something he shouldn't have seen, and his life changed instantly. Terrence Coleman had exactly 47 minutes to finish his shift in the registrar's office before his organic chemistry study group met in the library. He glanced at the clock above the filing cabinets. 8:13 p.m. The administrative building at Ashford University was tomb-quiet at this hour, just the hum of old fluorescent lights and the distant whir of the heating system keeping him company. He'd taken this work-study job because it paid $3 more per hour than the dining hall, and every dollar mattered when you were cobbling together scholarships, loans, and 2 other part-time gigs just to stay enrolled. His mother's voice echoed in his head like it did most nights. "You're the first Coleman to go to college, baby. Make us proud." Terrence was refiling student transcripts, mind-numbing work that let him mentally rehearse organic chemistry mechanisms, when he noticed light spilling from beneath Dean Patricia Aldrich's office door. Strange. The dean left by 6 every evening without fail. He'd learned her schedule during his first week. He should have kept walking, should have minded his business, finished his filing, and headed to the library. But Terrence had been raised by a woman who noticed when things were out of place, who taught him to pay attention to details. That instinct had kept him alive in neighborhoods where you learned to read a room before entering it. The voices were low, measured, professional. He wouldn't have stopped except he heard his supervisor's name. Coleman won't be a problem. He just files and leaves. Doesn't ask questions. Terrence froze, his hands still gripping a manila folder marked Harrison B. "We can't afford assumptions, Richard." That was Dean Aldrich's voice, clipped with the kind of authority that came from 20 years of institutional power. Not with the Bancroft donation at stake. 15 million doesn't come along twice. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you're watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Now back to the story. The kid's got his head down, working his way through. He's not paying attention to what he's filing. Trust me. That was Richard Chen, the assistant registrar, Terrence's direct supervisor and the person who'd hired him. A knot formed in Terrence's stomach. Nevertheless, pause. How many records did we adjust this semester? 7. All from legacy families or major donors. Nothing that would raise flags. We changed a few FS to CS, bumped some CS to BS, kept them enrolled, kept the money flowing. Terrence's breath caught. He looked down at the folder in his hand. Brandon Harrison, he knew that name. Star lacrosse player. Son of Harrison Tech's CEO. Terrence had filed his transcript 2 weeks ago and remembered thinking it was odd how many incompletes had suddenly become passing grades. "And the Whitmore boy?" Dean Aldrich asked. "Taken care of. His father's endowing the new athletic facility. The least we could do was ensure he didn't lose his scholarship over a little academic underperformance." Terrence's mind raced. The Whitmore kid had failed 3 classes last semester. Everyone knew it. There'd been talk in the student center about how he'd somehow stayed on the lacrosse team despite university policy, requiring a 2.5 GPA minimum. Now Terrence knew how. He should have left. Instead, his phone was already in his hand, recording app open, held up toward the door crack. "What about the Faculty Senate review next month?" Dean Aldrich's voice carried a note of concern. "If they audit, they won't. We've been doing this for 4 years, Patricia. The system works because we're selective. We don't get greedy. Just enough to keep the major donors happy, keep their kids enrolled, keep the endowment growing. For years." Terrence's jaw clenched. For years of selling grades while students like him survived on ramen and sleep deprivation, terrified that one bad exam would cost them everything. "Still," Richard continued, "we should consider transitioning Coleman out. Hire someone new for spring semester. Someone less observant." "Is he observant?" "He's a scholarship kid. Chemistry major. 3.9 GPA. Those types notice everything. It's how they survive." A long pause. Terrence could hear his own heartbeat. "Fine. We'll let him finish the semester. Post the position again in January. Make it look natural." Terrence's hand trembled slightly as he stopped the recording. He backed away from the door silently. a skill learned from years of navigating his grandmother's creaky apartment at night, and made it back to the filing area. He grabbed his backpack, left the Harrison transcript on the desk, and walked out of the building with measured, careful steps. Only when he hit the cold November air did he let himself breathe. The next morning, Terrence sat in the back corner of Cup and Chaucer, the off-campus coffee shop where students who couldn't afford the campus cafe prices gathered. His organic chemistry textbook lay open in front of him, unread. The recording played on his phone, volume low, earbuds in. He'd listened to it 17 times. Each replay made him angrier. Angrier at the casual corruption. Angrier at the assumption that he was too busy surviving to notice. Angrier at being seen as a problem to be transitioned out. "You look like someone ran over your dog." Terrence looked up. Jasmine Park slid into the seat across from him, his lab partner, pre-law, and one of the few people at Ashford who understood what it meant to be at this university on a prayer and a promise. "You know the Harrison kid? Lacrosse team?" Terrence asked. "Trust fund baby who shows up to economics hung over?" "Yeah, I know him." "Why?" Terrence made a decision that would alter the trajectory of his life. He handed her an earbud. 3 minutes later, Jasmine sat back, her expression carefully neutral, the same face she wore when dismantling opposing arguments in Model UN. "You recorded this last night?" "Yes." "Do you understand what you have here?" "I think so." "No." Jasmine leaned forward. "You have evidence of academic fraud that could bring down a dean, destroy careers, and probably trigger a Department of Education investigation. You also have a recording that could make you the most hated person on this campus by every wealthy family whose kid got a backdoor favor. So what do I do?" "That's not the question." Jasmine pulled out her laptop. "The question is, what are you willing to risk?" Terrence thought he'd been careful. He'd made copies of the recording, stored them in 3 different cloud accounts. He'd started documenting everything. His work shifts, the files he'd handled, the transcripts he'd noticed with unexplained grade changes. He'd even reached out to a campus journalist, a senior named David Tremaine who ran the university's independent newspaper. What he hadn't counted on was how fast whispers traveled in administrative circles. Started small. His work schedule got cut from 20 hours to 10 with no explanation. Then his faculty advisor, Dr. Sarah Brennan, who'd championed his research proposal for a summer fellowship, suddenly stopped responding to emails. When he finally caught her after class, she wouldn't meet his eyes. "Terrence, I think you should consider other faculty for your fellowship recommendation." "Dr. Brennan, I don't understand. You said my proposal was the strongest you'd seen in 5 years." She glanced around the hallway, then lowered her voice. "Sometimes there are institutional considerations. It's better for everyone if you find another advisor." The dismissal stung worse than any rejection letter. The next week, his resident advisor knocked on his door at midnight. "Ga inspetin." "Need to check for prohibited items." Terrence's roommate, a business major who barely spoke to him, watched as the RA tore through Terrence's side of the room with unusual thoroughness. They found nothing because there was nothing to find, but the message was clear: you're being watched. Then came the email from financial aid. "Dear Mr. Coleman, we are writing to inform you that your financial aid package is under review due to potential discrepancies in your application. Until this review is complete, your aid will be suspended. Please contact our office immediately." Terrence read the email 3 times, hands shaking. There were no discrepancies. He'd triple-checked every form, every document. His mother had taken a day off work, unpaid, to help him gather tax records and verification letters. This was retaliation. Jasmine found him in the library, staring at his laptop screen. She took one look at his face and sat down. "What happened?" He showed her the email. "Jesus." She was quiet for a moment. "They're trying to force you out." "I know. Have you talked to Tremaine yet?" "The journalist. We're meeting tomorrow. He wants to verify the recording, see if there's documentation to back it up." "Good. Because if you're going to burn, you might as well burn bright enough that people notice." David Tremaine was a lanky white kid from Connecticut with wire-rimmed glasses and an obsession with investigative journalism that bordered on religious fervor. He'd broken stories on campus security problems and misused activity fees, but nothing like this. They met in a study room in the library's basement. One of the old, windowless rooms that smelled like old books and anxiety. "I've verified your recording," David said, spreading documents across the table. "I also filed FOIA requests for grade change records and financial donation timelines. And I found something interesting." He pulled up a spreadsheet on his laptop. "See these patterns? Every student whose grades were altered had a parent who'd made a significant donation within 6 months. And look at this." He clicked to another tab. "The dean's office has made administrative corrections to transcripts 43 times in the past 4 years. The university average before Dean Aldrich? About 6 per year, usually for genuine clerical errors." Terrence stared at the numbers. 43 families. 43 students who'd bought their grades while he'd bled for every A. "When can you publish?" "That's the problem. My editor, he's getting pressure. Won't say from who, but I'm betting from the administration. He wants me to wait until after winter break. Maybe next semester." "That's too late. They're suspending my financial aid. If I can't prove why they're targeting me." "I know." David removed his glasses, rubbed his eyes. "Look, I believe you, but I need more than a recording and patterns. I need documents, emails, something that proves intent. I can get into the records system." Both of them turned to look at the door. Jasmine stood there, looking grim. "I'm on work study in IT. I have access to backup servers. If there are emails, if there's documentation, I can find it." "That's illegal," David said. "So is academic fraud," Jasmine shot back. "And they're about to kick Terrence out of school with a fraudulent financial aid suspension on his record. That'll follow him everywhere. What's more illegal? Exposing corruption or letting it continue?" Terrence looked at his friend. "Jasmine, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. Because next semester it could be me. They'll find some excuse, some way to clear out anyone who might notice things. We're not people to them, we're complications." The documents came 3 days later, delivered via encrypted email at 3 a.m. Terrence couldn't sleep anyway. He'd been checking his student account obsessively, waiting for them to lock him out completely. The files Jasmine had found were damning. Emails between Dean Aldrich, Richard Chun, and several faculty members discussing accommodations for specific students. Spreadsheets tracking donations and corresponding grade changes. Even a memo about managing scholarship students who might pose discretionary risks. That last phrase made Terrence's blood run cold. He wasn't a person with legitimate concerns. He was a discretionary risk. David published the story at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving break. The headline, "Ashford University's Shadow System: How Wealthy Families Bought Grades While Scholarship Students Struggled." The article named names, included audio excerpts from Terrence's recording, published the emails. By noon, it had been picked up by the state's major newspaper. By evening, national education news outlets were calling. By midnight, Terrence had 17 missed calls, 43 texts, and campus security had knocked on his door twice asking him to come to the dean's office. He didn't go. The fallout was swift and vicious. Dean Aldrich resigned within 72 hours, citing personal reasons. Richard Chun was placed on administrative leave. 3 faculty members were suspended pending investigation. The Department of Education opened a formal inquiry, but Terrence paid a price too. His financial aid suspension remained in place, pending investigation, they said, though everyone knew it was punishment. Someone spray-painted "snitch" on his dorm room door. He received anonymous messages calling him a traitor, saying he'd destroyed professors' careers over nothing. The wealthy students whose families had been exposed closed ranks. They filled campus forums with posts about witch hunts and jealous scholarship students. Some claimed the recordings were edited, the emails fabricated. Their parents hired lawyers. The campus fractured. There were protests, some supporting Terrence, demanding accountability. Others defending the administration, claiming the story was overblown. Terrence stopped going to most of his classes. Not because he was afraid, though he was, but because students would photograph him, post his location online, treat him like a spectacle. One afternoon, a white student from his chemistry class cornered him outside the science building. "You're really proud of yourself, aren't you?" The guy's face was red. "My uncle taught here for 15 years. You just cost him his pension over some bullshit recording." "Your uncle changed grades for money," Terrence said quietly. "That's not bullshit. It's how things work. You think the world runs on merit? Grow up. All you did was destroy people's lives because you couldn't handle that some people have connections." Terrence wanted to punch him, wanted to scream that merit was all he had, that connections were a luxury he'd never been able to afford. Instead, he walked away. Later, in his dorm room, he found himself crying for the first time since this started. Not from fear or anger, but from exhaustion. From the weight of being right when being right cost everything. Jasmine found him 2 days before Thanksgiving break, sitting alone in the library's law section where almost no one ventured. "You disappeared. Been around." She sat down, pulled out her laptop. "The ACLU reached out. They want to represent you if the university tries to expel you or maintain your aid suspension." "Why?" "Because what happened to you is exactly what happens to whistleblowers in academic settings. They're building a case that your aid suspension was retaliation." Terrence felt a knot in his chest. "And you? Anyone coming after you?" Jasmine's smile was grim. "IT security figured out someone accessed the backup servers. They haven't pinned it on me yet, but they will. My work study's been temporarily suspended while they investigate."
"I'm sorry."
"Don't." She cut him off. "I made my choice. And honestly, I'm not sorry. You know how many times I sat in class listening to professors talk about ethics and integrity while knowing the whole system was rigged? At least now people have to pretend to care. Some people really hate me right now. Some people always hate truth-tellers. That's how you know you're doing something right." They sat in silence for a while. Two scholarship students who'd chosen integrity over safety in a world that punished one and rewarded the other. Terrence went home for Thanksgiving break, back to his mother's small apartment in Atlanta where the walls were thin but the love was thick. His mother held him for a long time when he walked in, not saying anything, just holding him like she used to when he was small and the world felt too big. "Over sweet potato pie?" she finally asked. "Do you regret it?" He thought about everything he'd lost. The easy path he could have taken. Finish the semester, let the recording die on his phone, graduate, and move on. He thought about Dean Aldrich's casual corruption, about 43 families who'd bought their children's futures while students like him fought for scraps. "No," he said finally. "But I'm tired, Mama." "I know, baby." She squeezed his hand. "But tired doesn't mean wrong. The right thing is usually the hard thing. That's how you know it matters." When he returned to campus after break, he found an envelope slipped under his door. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note. "I'm a janitor here. Been cleaning these buildings for 12 years. I heard what you did. My daughter wants to come here someday. Thank you for making it a little more fair for kids like her." Terrence folded the note carefully and put it in his wallet. The Department of Education's investigation took 3 months. In the end, Ashford University was fined $2.3 million and placed on probation. The grade changes were reversed. 18 students were retroactively placed on academic suspension. 7 lost their degrees entirely. Terrence's financial aid was reinstated with a formal apology, signed by an interim dean he'd never met, and a settlement that covered his remaining tuition plus damages for emotional distress. The university made it clear this was not an admission of wrongdoing, just a desire to move forward. He stayed, finished his degree in chemistry, graduated with honors. At commencement, as he walked across the stage to collect his diploma, a small group of students, mostly other scholarship recipients, stood and applauded. It wasn't the whole audience, but it was enough. Years later, Terrence Coleman would become a professor himself. He'd teach organic chemistry at a state university, mentoring first-generation students who reminded him of who he'd been. Terrified, brilliant, and betting everything on the possibility that merit might actually matter. On the first day of each semester, He'd tell his students a story, not with names or specifics, but enough that they understood. Sometimes you'll see something you're not supposed to see. Sometimes you'll have to choose between your comfort and your conscience. The system, he'd say, relies on good people looking away. It relies on those of us with the least power believing we have no right to speak up. But the moment you decide that truth matters more than safety, that's when you become dangerous. That's when you change things. And every semester, at least one student would stay after class to ask, "But what if speaking up costs everything?" Terrence would think about a cold November night, a recording on his phone, and a door he could have walked past. He'd think about Rita M., the janitor whose daughter deserved a fair shot. He'd think about Jasmine and David and everyone who'd chosen the hard right over the easy wrong. Then you learn, he'd say, that sometimes everything you lose was never really yours. But what you gain, your integrity, your courage, the knowledge that you stood up when it mattered, that's something no one can take away. The students would nod, not fully understanding yet. But someday, when their moment came, they'd remember. And maybe, just maybe, they'd have the courage to walk through the door instead of past it. If the story moved you in any way, please take a second to like this video, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one.